Elon Musk has sparked a new controversy, this time turning his attention to the United States gold reserves. In a series of posts on his X platform, Musk questioned whether the $425 billion in gold stored at Fort Knox is actually there. His comments have reignited long-standing debates over transparency in government reserves and have raised serious questions about the integrity of the nation's wealth. The issue of Fort Knox's gold holdings has been the subject of speculation for decades. With more than 8,100 tons of gold, the United States holds the world's largest reserves, a significant portion of which is kept inside the heavily guarded Fort Knox facility. However, access to this gold has been highly restricted. While select government officials have visited over the years, full audits have been rare, leading to growing concerns about the accuracy of the reported figures. Republican Senator Rand Paul, a longtime advocate for a full audit of the nation's gold reserves, has been pushing for transparency for over a decade. Despite repeated attempts, he has been denied access to Fort Knox, adding to suspicions that something is being hidden. He finally secured permission to visit in 2017, but due to scheduling conflicts, he was unable to attend. Instead, then Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Senator Mitch McConnell toured the vaults and assured the public that the gold was intact. Yet their claims have done little to convince skeptics. Musk's involvement comes through his role in the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, an initiative aimed at increasing transparency in government operations. While the specifics of his plan remain unclear, Musk hinted at the possibility of a live-streamed walkthrough of Fort Knox, an unprecedented move that could finally provide proof that the gold is there, or expose an alarming gap in government accountability. The timing of this controversy is significant. Recently, members of the Trump administration have floated the idea of using the gold reserves to stabilize the economy. Although the US dollar has not been backed by gold for over 50 years, some argue that gold still plays an implicit role in supporting the currency's value. If the government were to revalue its gold reserves at today's market prices, well above $2,900 per ounce, it could potentially add more than $760 billion to the Treasury's balance sheet. The potential economic impact of such a move has sparked debate among financial experts. Some argue that revaluing the gold reserves would strengthen the government's asset base and provide temporary financial relief. Others believe it would do little to solve deeper economic issues, particularly the United States' growing debt crisis, which now exceeds $36 trillion. They caution that such a strategy could have unintended consequences, including increased volatility in global gold markets. If an official audit were to reveal that some of the gold is missing, the implications would be massive. Trust in the U.S. financial system could be shaken, leading to panic in markets and a loss of confidence in the government's ability to manage its assets. It could also spark investigations into where the missing gold might have gone and whether mismanagement or corruption has played a role. Musk's inquiry has also drawn comparisons to previous conspiracy theories surrounding Fort Knox. For decades, skeptics have claimed that some or all of the gold may have been secretly sold or leased out to financial institutions without public knowledge. While no solid evidence has ever been presented to support these claims, the lack of regular audits has allowed speculation to persist. Some argue that Musk's influence and access to advanced technology could finally provide definitive answers to these questions. Despite the controversy, officials from the U.S. Treasury and Federal Reserve maintain that the gold reserves are accounted for and remain untouched. According to official records, the last time the U.S. formally valued its gold was in 1972, at the outdated price of $42 per ounce. If a revaluation were to take place at today's market rates, it could significantly alter the government's balance sheet. However, some economists believe that revaluing the gold could introduce more risks than benefits, as it might encourage further government intervention in gold markets and lead to unpredictable shifts in monetary policy. Beyond the economic arguments, Musk's involvement in the gold debate has raised broader questions about his growing role in government affairs. As the head of several influential companies, including Tesla and SpaceX, Musk has increasingly positioned himself as a figure capable of influencing national policy. While some view his initiatives as an effort to bring transparency and efficiency to government operations, others see them as an overreach by an unelected billionaire with significant private interests. The possibility of a live-streamed audit would be a landmark event in the history of Fort Knox. If the gold is confirmed to be there, it could put an end to decades of speculation and strengthen trust in the government's handling of national reserves. However, if gaps or inconsistencies are found, it could trigger a financial and political crisis, forcing officials to answer difficult questions about accountability and management. As Musk and his Doge team prepare for the potential audit, the world watches with anticipation. Whether this will be a moment of revelation or another chapter in the long-running mystery of Fort Knox remains to be seen. What is certain is that the debate over the nation's gold reserves is far from over, and the impact of this investigation could stretch far beyond the walls of Fort Knox. As the debate over Fort Knox's gold reserves intensifies, the implications of Musk's involvement extend beyond just transparency. His push for an audit has ignited discussions about the broader role of gold in the global economy, and whether the United States should reconsider how it values and uses its vast reserves. One of the key concerns surrounding the Fort Knox reserves is the issue of valuation. Officially, the U.S. government still prices its gold at just $42 per ounce, a figure that hasn't changed since 1972. Meanwhile, the actual market price of gold has soared past $2,900 per ounce, making the government's valuation appear outdated and vastly underreported. Some economic strategists argue that revaluing the gold at market rates could provide a much-needed boost to the government's financial position, potentially adding over $760 billion to the Treasury's balance sheet. However, others caution that such a move could create unforeseen financial consequences, particularly for the stability of the U.S. dollar. If the government were to revalue its gold reserves, it could lead to significant changes in monetary policy. A stronger balance sheet might allow for increased government spending or a restructuring of debt obligations. On the other hand, it could also lead to concerns about inflation and manipulation of gold prices, as investors speculate on how such a move would impact global markets. Historically, gold has been seen as a safe haven asset, and any sudden shifts in U.S. policy could send ripple effects through the financial world. The speculation surrounding Fort Knox's gold has also revived old fears about the security of U.S. reserves. Some conspiracy theories suggest that portions of the gold may have been sold or leased out without public disclosure, a claim that has never been substantiated. However, the lack of regular independent audits fuels suspicion, and Musk's push for transparency could either confirm the gold's presence or reignite public distrust if discrepancies are found. A potential audit also raises logistical questions. Fort Knox is one of the most secure locations in the world, and allowing an outside team, even one led by a figure as influential as Musk, to inspect the reserves is a significant security and political challenge. If a live-streamed walkthrough is indeed part of the plan, as Musk has suggested, it would mark an unprecedented level of transparency for a facility that has remained largely off-limits for decades. Whether such an event would even be permitted by federal authorities remains uncertain. Another layer to this discussion is the geopolitical impact. The United States gold reserves are among the largest in the world, and any major changes in how they are managed or valued could influence global financial markets. Central banks in emerging economies have been accumulating gold at record rates in recent years, partly as a hedge against economic instability and U.S. dollar fluctuations. If the U.S. government takes significant action regarding its gold holdings, it could prompt other nations to reassess their own reserves and strategies. Beyond the economic and financial implications, Musk's role in this debate raises fundamental questions about his influence over government operations. While his efforts in transparency and efficiency through Doge have been praised by some, others question whether an unelected business leader should have such a direct impact on national policy decisions. His increasing involvement in government matters, from space exploration to defense contracts to financial audits, has sparked debates over the balance of power between public institutions and private industry. As the situation develops, the public remains divided on whether Musk's involvement is a step toward accountability or an overreach into areas best handled by elected officials. What happens next depends on whether his push for transparency is met with cooperation or resistance from the government. Either way, the discussion around Fort Knox's gold reserves is no longer just an economic debate. It has become a matter of national and global significance. The growing scrutiny over Fort Knox's gold reserves has placed the U.S. government in an unusual position, forcing officials to respond to mounting calls for transparency. While Musk's push for an audit has intensified public interest, government agencies have remained largely silent on whether they will allow an independent review of the nation's gold stockpile. One of the primary arguments against an audit is national security. Fort Knox is one of the most secure locations in the United States, with access restricted to a select few individuals. Allowing an external review could pose potential risks, and officials have long maintained that internal checks and balances ensure the gold remains accounted for. However, these assurances have done little to quell skepticism, particularly in the wake of rising concerns about financial stability and government accountability. Some lawmakers have started to voice support for Musk's audit proposal, arguing that a full, independent review is necessary to restore public confidence in the government's handling of national assets. Others, however, remain cautious, warning that excessive scrutiny could create unnecessary panic and speculation in financial markets. If the audit were to reveal discrepancies, the fallout could be substantial, with potential ramifications for the strength of the U.S. dollar and global economic confidence in American financial institutions. The question of how such an audit would be conducted also remains open. Traditional audits involve physical verification of the gold bars, ensuring that reported quantities match actual reserves. However, Musk, known for his technological approach to problem-solving, may propose alternative methods such as blockchain verification or real-time asset tracking systems. These innovations could provide a more transparent and efficient way to monitor reserves, reducing the need for periodic audits and increasing trust in government-reported figures. Beyond financial implications, the debate over Fort Knox's gold reserves underscores a broader issue: the role of government transparency in the modern age. With increasing technological capabilities, public expectations for openness and accountability are higher than ever. If Musk's audit proceeds, it could set a precedent for how other government assets and financial records are managed, potentially leading to further investigations into federal reserves, debt, and monetary policies. The implications of this movement extend beyond U.S. borders. If the United States successfully implements a transparent verification process for its gold reserves, other nations may be pressured to follow suit. Countries like China and Russia, which have been steadily increasing their gold holdings, may face similar calls for greater transparency, particularly as gold continues to play a critical role in global financial markets. At the heart of this issue is a fundamental question: does the American public have the right to demand proof of their government's assets, or should national security concerns take precedence? Musk's involvement has made this debate more urgent, as his influence and resources bring unprecedented attention to the topic. Whether the government embraces or resists his calls for transparency will be a defining moment in the ongoing discussion about financial accountability in the modern world. As the controversy unfolds, one thing is certain: the debate over Fort Knox's gold is no longer just a niche concern of financial analysts and politicians. It has entered mainstream discourse, and the outcome of Musk's challenge to the government could shape policies on transparency and economic oversight for years to come. As the push for transparency around Fort Knox's gold reserves gains momentum, the response from government officials and financial institutions will determine the future of this debate. If Musk's audit is granted, it could mark a historic moment in government accountability, providing a level of insight into national assets that has never been seen before. However, if access is denied, it could further fuel suspicions and speculation, reinforcing concerns that there is something to hide. One of the biggest potential outcomes of this situation is the impact on global financial markets. Gold remains a crucial asset for many central banks, and any revelation about the state of the U.S. reserves could send ripples throughout the global economy. If the audit confirms that the gold is fully accounted for, it may strengthen confidence in U.S. financial stability. However, if inconsistencies are found, it could trigger a loss of trust in the government's financial management, leading to increased volatility in currency and commodity markets. Another consequence could be renewed debates about the role of gold in the monetary system. Although the US dollar has not been backed by gold since the 1970s, some policymakers have suggested that gold could play a greater role in financial planning, especially amid concerns about inflation and national debt. A push toward revaluing gold reserves at market prices could open discussions about alternative monetary policies, possibly leading to shifts in how the government manages its assets in the future. Beyond financial concerns, the political implications of Musk's involvement are significant. His increasing influence in government affairs, from space exploration to financial oversight, is raising questions about the role of private individuals in public policy. While some view his efforts as a much-needed disruption to outdated systems, others worry about the precedent it sets when a single billionaire gains such access and authority over national matters. Regardless of how this situation unfolds, it has already reshaped public discourse on financial transparency. The demand for greater oversight of government reserves, more frequent audits, and clearer public reporting is likely to persist beyond this specific case. Whether Musk's audit proceeds or not, the pressure on governments worldwide to be more transparent with their national assets is growing, and this movement is unlikely to fade anytime soon. As the world watches, the Fort Knox controversy serves as a reminder that trust in government institutions is built on transparency and accountability. Whether the gold reserves are fully intact or not, the real question is whether the public will be satisfied with the answers they receive, or whether they will continue demanding more proof. What if I told you that the future of U.S. government hiring now rests in the hands of a man who once launched a car into space? It's not a joke. Elon Musk, the controversial billionaire known for his erratic tweets and ambitious projects, has just been given unprecedented power over federal agencies. But here's the kicker. It all started with an impromptu Oval Office visit to talk about Dogecoin? In a move that has left political analysts and tech enthusiasts alike scratching their heads, President Trump signed an executive order granting Musk and his team control over federal hiring processes. This unexpected shift in power dynamics means that government agencies now need approval from Doge, not the cryptocurrency, but Musk's newly formed department, before making key hiring decisions. The Oval Office, a symbol of presidential power and American democracy, is no stranger to unexpected visitors. But on a crisp autumn morning, even seasoned White House staffers were taken aback by the sight that greeted them. Elon Musk, the tech billionaire known for his electric cars and space ventures, strolled into the hallowed room with an air of casual confidence that seemed at odds with the formal setting. What made the scene even more surreal was the presence of Musk's young son toddling alongside him. The child's wide-eyed wonder at the ornate surroundings provided a stark contrast to the serious faces of the Secret Service agents and presidential aides who scrambled to make sense of this unscheduled visit. As word spread through the West Wing, a mixture of curiosity and concern rippled through the staff. Some whispered about security protocols, while others speculated on the nature of Musk's impromptu meeting with the president. The press corps, always on high alert for unexpected developments, began to gather outside, their cameras and microphones at the ready. Inside the Oval Office, Musk's casual demeanor seemed to clash with the gravity of the room. He lounged in a chair, his son perched on his lap, as he engaged in animated conversation with the president. The leader of the free world, known for his meticulous adherence to protocol, appeared both amused and slightly bewildered by his guest's unorthodox approach. The decision to bring his child to such a high-level meeting was quintessential Musk. It was a move that simultaneously humanized him and underscored his disregard for traditional norms. Some saw it as a refreshing break from stuffy political theater, while others viewed it as a calculated attempt to soften his image and disarm potential critics. This unconventional approach aligned perfectly with Musk's carefully cultivated public persona. He has long positioned himself as an outsider, a disruptor who challenges the status quo in every arena he enters. By bringing his son to the White House, he was sending a clear message. He would approach government affairs with the same irreverence and innovation that had made him a titan in the tech world. However, the implications of a tech mogul having such informal access to the president raised eyebrows across Washington. Critics argued that it blurred the lines between Silicon Valley and the federal government, potentially giving Musk undue influence over policy decisions. Supporters countered that his fresh perspective was exactly what was needed to shake up an outdated system. As speculation about the purpose of Musk's visit reached a fever pitch, rumors began to circulate. Was he there to discuss a new government contract for SpaceX? Had he convinced the president to invest in a nationwide network of Tesla charging stations? Or was this simply a publicity stunt designed to boost his company's stock prices? The truth, when it finally emerged, was more surprising than anyone had anticipated. Musk was there to discuss Doge, but not the cryptocurrency that had become a meme-fueled sensation. Instead, he was unveiling plans for a new Department of Government Efficiency, an initiative that promised to revolutionize federal operations. This revelation sent shockwaves through the political establishment. The idea of a tech entrepreneur being given carte blanche to overhaul government processes was met with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Proponents hailed it as a long-overdue modernization of bureaucratic systems, while skeptics warned of potential conflicts of interest and the dangers of applying Silicon Valley's move fast and break things ethos to critical government functions. What exactly does it mean for a private citizen to have control over federal hiring? The Department of Government Efficiency's unprecedented powers were about to reshape Washington in ways few could predict. The concept of Doge, at its core, represents a bold attempt to inject Silicon Valley's efficiency-driven mindset into the often slow-moving gears of government bureaucracy. Its stated purpose is to streamline federal operations, particularly in the realm of hiring and personnel management. However, the implications of this initiative stretch far beyond simple process improvements. What sets Doge apart is the extraordinary level of authority granted to a private individual. Elon Musk, a figure known for disrupting industries and challenging norms, now finds himself in a position to directly influence the composition of the federal workforce. This marks a significant departure from traditional government structures where such power typically resides within established agencies and is subject to extensive oversight. Proponents of Doge argue that this fresh approach could bring much-needed innovation to government operations. The tech industry's emphasis on rapid iteration, data-driven decision-making, and cutting-edge technologies could potentially transform how federal agencies recruit, assess, and onboard talent. In theory, this could lead to a more agile and responsive government, better equipped to tackle 21st century challenges. However, the unprecedented nature of this arrangement has raised serious concerns among critics. Chief among these is the potential for conflicts of interest. Musk's vast business empire, which includes companies like SpaceX and Tesla, regularly interacts with various government agencies through contracts, regulations, and oversight. The fear is that his new role could blur the lines between his private interests and public responsibilities, potentially compromising the integrity of federal hiring processes. The impact of Doge on existing federal agencies could be profound. Established departments may find themselves under pressure to adapt to new efficiency standards set by Musk's team. This could lead to significant changes in workforce composition and agency operations. While increased efficiency is generally seen as positive, there are concerns about how these changes might affect the institutional knowledge and specialized expertise that many agencies have cultivated over decades. It's worth noting that attempts to reform federal bureaucracy are not new. Previous administrations have launched various initiatives aimed at streamlining government operations and improving efficiency. However, these efforts have often faced significant challenges, yielding limited success. The entrenched nature of bureaucratic norms and resistance to change have historically proved formidable obstacles to sweeping reforms. As Doge prepares to flex its newfound authority, speculation abounds about the practical implications of its powers. Will federal agencies see a rapid influx of tech-savvy professionals? How will traditional civil service protections be balanced against the drive for efficiency? The answers to these questions could reshape the federal workforce for years to come. The influence of Musk's team on federal hiring decisions is expected to be substantial. Their approach is likely to emphasize a more streamlined, tech-driven process that contrasts sharply with traditional government hiring practices. This could mean faster hiring cycles, increased use of data analytics in candidate assessment, and potentially a shift in the types of skills and experiences valued in federal employees. However, this new approach also raises questions about how it will maintain the transparency and accountability that are hallmarks of government hiring processes. The federal government's hiring practices have evolved over time to ensure fairness, diversity, and merit-based selection. How DOGE will incorporate these principles while pursuing its efficiency agenda remains to be seen. While Musk promises unparalleled transparency for DOGE, a closer look reveals a paradox. How can an organization exempt from open records laws claim to be maximally transparent? This contradiction lies at the heart of the concerns surrounding Musk's new role in shaping federal hiring practices. Musk's bold statement about DOGE's transparency stands in stark contrast to the realities of its legal status. He declared, "All of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the DOGE organization." Yet the very structure of DOGE exempts it from open records laws, raising immediate questions about how the public can verify such claims. This discrepancy becomes even more pronounced when we consider Musk's personal track record with transparency. His financial disclosures, which would typically provide insight into potential conflicts of interest, have been kept under wraps. This secrecy is particularly troubling given his newfound influence over federal operations. How can the public trust that decisions made by DOGE are in the best interest of the government and not Musk's vast business empire? The tech mogul's history of public statements further complicates the picture. Musk has a habit of making sweeping proclamations that often lack accountability. He once admitted, "Some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected." While this candor might be refreshing in some contexts, it raises serious concerns when applied to the realm of government efficiency and hiring practices. The federal government's operations require a level of precision and accountability that seems at odds with Musk's more casual approach to public communication. Moreover, the challenges of maintaining transparency in both the tech and government sectors are significant. Silicon Valley has long been criticized for its opaque practices, while government agencies face constant scrutiny over their transparency. Musk's attempt to bridge these two worlds with DOGE creates a unique set of challenges. How will he balance the need for rapid innovation and efficiency with the government's obligation to maintain public trust through openness and accountability? The juxtaposition of Musk's informal style and the serious nature of federal oversight is particularly striking. His response to accusations of lack of accountability was surprisingly dismissive. Musk suggested that if conflicts arise, people would simply need to speak up. This approach seems woefully inadequate for ensuring true accountability in a government context, where formal checks and balances are crucial for maintaining public trust. Furthermore, Musk's business interests in companies like SpaceX and Tesla, which frequently interact with government agencies, create potential conflicts of interest that demand rigorous transparency. How will DOGE handle situations where efficiency measures might benefit Musk's companies? The lack of clear mechanisms for addressing these conflicts is a glaring oversight in the current structure of DOGE. The implications of this approach to transparency extend beyond DOGE itself. If Musk's model of transparency becomes the new standard for government operations, it could fundamentally alter the relationship between the public and federal agencies. The risk is that instead of increased openness, we might see a shift towards a more corporate-style opacity, where claims of transparency are made without the necessary infrastructure to support them. As DOGE begins its operations, these questions about transparency and accountability will likely intensify. Will Musk's promise of maximum transparency translate into concrete practices, or will it remain a lofty but unfulfilled claim? The success of DOGE, and potentially the public's trust in government efficiency measures, hangs in the balance. As we consider the potential long-term impacts of Musk's involvement in federal bureaucracy, it's clear that this unprecedented shift could fundamentally alter how government operations are conducted. The prioritization of efficiency over traditional processes may lead to a more streamlined system, but at what cost? Questions arise about the balance between innovation and accountability in this new landscape. Will this tech-driven approach to governance truly serve the public interest, or will it primarily benefit those already in positions of power and influence? As viewers, it's crucial to stay informed and engaged as this situation unfolds. The repercussions of this merger between Silicon Valley's ethos and federal administration could reshape our understanding of democracy and governance for years to come.